Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with InsideTheU. I just got back from North Augusta, South Carolina at the Peach Jam. It was great watching a ton of games. I have over 1,000 video clips I've got to go through. But in this video, I'm going to break down my final thoughts on all 10 players with the Miami offer in the class of 2027 who are currently uncommitted. A lot of talented players, some players that are very intriguing, and also just want to provide a little bit of insight into Miami's recruiting efforts that I witnessed there at the Peach Jam. But just first off, I really enjoyed myself there. It was a lot of basketball games. The days were long, but I watched a lot of action, which was great. And I watched the 16U group as well, but I'll focus on them in a different video. But in this one, you know, the first couple days, I did a reaction right afterwards. I didn't do one on Friday or Saturday. There was just a lot going on, long days and everything. But overall, great experience. Great seeing all these guys in action. You hear the names. You want to see what they look like. I've been watching these guys and following them on film. Some of them I have seen in person. And it was just great, kind of into the summer, a fantastic event, and shout out to the Florida Rebels for winning the Peach Jam. And that's where I want to start. One of Miami's top targets is Cayden Daughtry, a point guard for Florida Rebels. He's a player that's very intriguing, very interesting, a player on the rise. He's been a good player in this class. But throughout the summer, throughout these previous 4 sessions, he's led the EYBL in scoring, and I think he picked up his play even more at the Peach Jam. Winning the title, averaging 32 points in the 8 games, 6 assists to go with it. And it's not just those high marks, those impressive numbers. It's the way he goes about it. And in Miami and their coaching staff, head coach Jay Lucas was there sitting on the sidelines. They had rotated in the assistant coaches, Eric Pastrana, Russell Springman, and Charlton Young. I saw all 3 of those guys at different points of the week there. But they're making Daughtry a high priority, and I had a chance to speak with Cayden about that. And he knows it. He likes Coach Lucas and some of the things some of the advice he's been able to give him to help him as a player. I have a full article already posted on InsideTheU.com, so definitely check that out, because it was really just, I watched Cayden multiple games, multiple days, and he just always delivered. And that's what the biggest thing was. He delivered in big moments, in big games. He had big performances when people were expecting him to do well. For example, Friday night, I want to share this story. I didn't get a chance right after the game, but I did write about it the best I could. But you know, the way it works is there's a main gym at the Peach Jam, and that's where your premier games are. But for whatever reason, his team wasn't going to be playing in that main gym, but because of how he'd been playing, you know, scoring over 30 points, I watched him score 43 in a triple overtime loss where he had a dunk at the buzzer to send it to overtime or at least extend the game. Then he had a 3-pointer as well in one of the overtimes to extend the game right at the buzzer. The crowd's going nuts, but because of how he was performing, that was the buzz around the gym. Everybody wanted to see Cayden in action, listen to the fans. And I was sitting in the stands and listening to the fans and the way they talked about Cayden. The younger kids out there watching him, they wanted to see Cayden. And everybody wanted to go to this smaller gym on Friday night, and there were over 100 fans outside of the gym, and it was at capacity, and they weren't able to get in. Luckily, I was able to. I was glad to be able to be in there and see how he performed. He had a great game. They won that game, and he hit a couple big threes, deep threes, and that's kind of his game. He can hit threes, but he's great at using his dribble, pick and roll situations from the top. Getting to his mid-range jumper or going all the way to the free throw line. He's a guy that absorbs contact, shot over 90% from the free throw line, averaging 10 free throw attempts a game. So he's very difficult to guard in one-on-one situations, but he's willing to go to contact, willing to go to the rim and kind of meet defenders at the rim and either draw fouls or score through contact, but very difficult player to defend. But, you know, you see the 35-point numbers or the 30-plus point games, but he can shoot threes, but, you know, there's games where I've seen him score over 30, but he only has 1 3-pointer that he made. You know, he doesn't rely on it for these big point totals, and that's what's impressive. I really like his playmaking ability, too. There was a game I watched. I talked to him afterwards. He had 10 assists in the game. I think he could be a playmaker because of that, some of the things I've seen in the past as well. But just an all-around good player, really good performance. There was another point guard that was very impressive as well. Beckham Black for AB Elite, the younger brother of Anthony Black of the Orlando Magic. And, a lot of buzz with Beckham. And the way it worked, if you guys haven't been following this 27 class, Marcus Spears Jr. reclassified to 26. He was the number 1 ranked player. So the way it worked was Beckham moved into that number 1 spot and in Vegas. And so a lot of hype and buzz surrounding him as a number 1 ranked player in the country. And he certainly played very well. 24 points, 5 assists. I thought he played well. His team came up short there in the tournament on Saturday. And I think there were moments throughout the tournament and in games where he could have made more of an impact, but he did have these high point totals and, the 20s and the 28-pointer, games like this where he was really, he gets in a really good sequence of events where, all of a sudden he really hits and he can go 3 straight possessions with a 2, a 3, another 2. He gets to the line. And the thing with him too, with Beckham, he's got good size at that position. And again, Miami's watching him as well. That's why I mentioned him here in this top group of this 10. He does a really good job also of passing the ball. And I think that's such a skill that he has. And I think sometimes he might defer a little bit because he's such a good passer. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see who Beckham plays with, where he ends up, which college he ends up with. But certainly a very dynamic player, a guy that's handling the pressure, dealing with the pressure of being the number 1 ranked player. Has always had the attention on him as a high-ranked guy. Everybody expecting so much out of him. But again, does a really good job with his ball handling, distributing the ball to his teammates, looking for guys. I think he did a great job there. And then another elite prospect that Miami's watching all the time, and they'd love to add to their class as well. But a lot of coaches were, and look, when I'm at these games, if you've never been and maybe don't know how it is, there's some games, there's over 50 college coaches at these games. It's during an evaluation period, so they're allowed to be there. And you're talking head coaches of all the big schools, Dan Hurley, John Calipari, Todd Golden, Tom Izzo is there. You're seeing all these guys, sitting courtside, and all the schools, it feels like a lot of the ACC school, everybody's there. So, watching these guys, certainly all these coaches, they think highly of these players as well. But the third guy I want to mention, Uvwo, a center, 6'11", 6'10", average 11 points, about 9 rebounds, 5, 6 blocks. But there were games he had 10 blocks in a game, he had 8 in another game. He's just a really impressive shot blocker. Plays with a lot of energy. He's always talking on the court, rallying his guys up, smiling. Just does a really good job of defending well and then meeting people. Help side defense. He does a really good job of getting over, getting the right spot, doesn't foul very often, blocks shots, really good length, but excellent timing. And he had been great at blocking shots throughout the circuit, but really, really great. Once again, he had a couple of these games, nearly had triple-double with blocks. You just don't see that very often, but very good shot blocker, runs well, willing to shoot a 3, good free throw form. He's just a really good impactor, and certainly he's another guy like these other two with Cayden and Beckham. These are highly regarded top 10 type players in their class. So a lot of people are after them, and Miami doing all they can with each of these 3 guys. And I was able to talk to Cayden, was able to talk to Lewis. They had positive things to say about Miami. Didn't get a chance to catch up with Beckham. Would have liked to have done that, but seeing him in other interviews, he has talked highly of the Hurricanes, which is a good sign. So we'll see if Miami can land one of these top 10 players in the class of these 3. But there's 7 other guys too that Miami's offered that I want to talk about as well. Where I want to start is with point guard Tyrone Jamison. He's a name that some of you might already be familiar with because he plays for JL3 Elite. That's John Lucas's team. He was there, had a chance to catch up with him as well. But with Tyrone, watched him multiple times. Again, watched all these guys multiple times. But Tyrone, there were a couple moments, a couple games where he wasn't shooting as well. There was one game in particular, he was 1 for 10, really struggling in the fourth quarter. Then when they needed a most pull-up 3 in the closing seconds of a game, they win that game because of his three-pointer in the closing seconds. So has the ability to really strike and has a lot of confidence, plays with a lot of speed. I really like that about him. And again, able to shoots threes, knocks down threes. He wants to be very active defensively, create steals, deflections, get in transition, look for his teammates. it's really fun watching him kind of work with Ahmad Hudson, a really talented basketball player who's committed to LSU for football, a guy that Miami has offered. But I'm not going to mention too much about Ahmad because he's already committed to another school. But seeing Tyrone and Ahmad work together was great to see. But again, Tyrone put up his comments at the interview on InsideTheU.com. But overall, you could see the ability. Again, pushing the pace, getting an up-tempo there, finding his teammates, going to the rim a little bit, knocking down some threes. So really good player out of Shreveport, Louisiana, a guy that Miami, and obviously Coach Lucas, knows very well, and the things that he's bringing to the table. Next up, I want to talk about 3 shooting guards that Miami's offered at the event here. Let's start with Oneal Delancy. He's going to Montverde, plays for the Florida Rebels. He's essentially Daughtry and Delancey. That's the backcourt for the Rebels there. So Delancey, a really good tournament, 16 points a game, essentially playing that number 2 role for the Rebels. But there were times when Cayden comes out of games and Oneal gets going. He's the one on the court that expected to score, and he's a guy, like I mentioned earlier with some of these other guys, really has the ability to score in bunches. He's a 3-level scorer. I enjoy talking to him about that. He finds it to be very important to be that, at that 2-guard spot in particular. But he's a guy that can shoot threes. I really like what he was doing there. Although he could have hit at a little bit higher rate, but 16 points a game throughout the tournament. A guy that can get to the rack. I really like his activity level on defense as well, but really dynamic guard, can shoot the mid-range. There was a moment in one of these games where he just got it going. Second half, fourth quarter, making a lot of shots for them. It was in that triple overtime game where they came up short, but Oneal had a great performance in terms of really doing a great job of making shots and essentially just a true shot maker, a guy, again, that can score at all 3 levels. 2 other shooting guards played on the same team for Jet Academy, and that was Chase Lumpkin and Justin Wise, both about 6'4", 6'5". I really like Chase's game in particular. I really think he has a really bright future. Averaged 17 points a game, shot about 39% from 3 there at the Peach Jam. A really good size, has the ability to put up them high point totals, can hit 20, 25, 30. He's just one of those guys that can really get it going. I really liked what he was doing. I think he's a good rebounder as well, and you want that in that 2-guard, that wing spot, guys to be able to rebound as well. But again, I just think Chase has a bright future. I really enjoyed watching him play and kind of seeing him. He's one of these guys that, again, watching him on film is one thing. Seeing him in person, I just came away really impressed with Chase. And then Justin as well, a good 3-point shooter, 10 points a game. Not the impact player that Chase is, but still you can see some things that he brings to the table with his perimeter shooting, about 35% from 3 at the Peach Jam. I thought there was some good moments from Justin, but just, with what Chase is able to do, I thought he made a bigger impact, just a better player there, but a good Peach Jam performance all around. And again, good to see him as well. Sticking with the wing players, there was a small forward here that Miami has offered him, Malachi Jordan, a top 20 ranked player going into the tournament. And I thought he really struggled, wasn't able to really make that scoring impact for Arizona Unity. He had played with the Oakland Soldiers earlier in the summer, but he's been with Arizona here lately. And, 9.6 points per game, under 5 rebounds, shot under 40%. Really good physical tools, 6'7", and you can see it, long arms, good strength at the position. He's very active in rebounding, but just wasn't able to make the impact that I thought he needed to make, particularly at the scoring level. And Arizona really struggled, 0-5 at the event, didn't advance, didn't win a game, obviously. But, I just thought Malachi could have been a little bit more impactful, could have been a little bit better, frankly. So I was expecting a little bit more out of him, but again, you see the flashes of the positive plays he can make. He can knock down threes. He can get to the rim. He had a really nice dunk, driving from the baseline all the way to the basket with a big one-handed jam there in traffic. So ability's there. The ability was clearly there. It just didn't have the overall production that you would like to see. And I think Malachi would tell you that too. I think he would have liked to have been more productive as well. But, again, the ability's there. You see it, good size, the ability to get to the rim, rebound at his position, and knock down some threes. Just needed to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more productive than he was at the Peach Jam. And then just wrapping it up with the 2 front court players, power forward, center types, and that's Brandon Woodard from Team Durant, a guy that I've seen at the City of Palms in person before. But with Brandon, 11 points, almost 10 rebounds a game. Really impactful forward in terms of really a lot of toughness there. Good length. You know, he can kind of defend well, I thought. And I thought he had some really good moments, some really good games. Really active and, you know, can get it done as kind of a good, solid piece there. Thought he did a good job for Team Durant. When he, you know, again, one of these guys that can really get going. Has a few good sequences up and down the court with a block shot, a dunk, whatever it might be. You know, and he's willing to kind of step out and kind of shoot the perimeter shot as well. But just an intriguing player there. Another intriguing player there at center, Tyran Frazier. You know, played for Brad Beal Elite. Actually comes off the bench for them. So 9 points a game, about 13 minutes. You know, but I was there watching him score 20 points in a game. You know, so I saw him have a really good performance there. And when he's going, it's tough to get minutes there, but when he's going, you know, you see the size, the length, again, the good rebounder. I think he can block some shots. I thought he did a really good job of finishing out the rim with some dunks, which is what you want to see in the big guys. So certainly the ability there, even though it wasn't just a huge productive performance, in total, again, saw the 20-point game. I thought he did a good job. Got off to a good start there in the first quarter, and then just kind of kept it going, which was great to see from Frazier there as well. So that's going to wrap everything up. I'll have some more stuff on this. Again, videos of all these guys, so you can see them. And then definitely drop in the comments what you thought of if you guys were there. Definitely, you know, your thoughts there. But also, you know, when you watch them on film, you know, that I'll put together. Definitely lock into the channel, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the highlights. But definitely want to appreciate everybody watching this video. Just a little recap of some thoughts. 10 players that have a Miami offer, the 2027 class, that I watched at the Peach Jam. But thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day, and take care.